What's going on, everybody? I want to talk a little bit. Let's call it tips for a returning rider. Now, I didn't really consider myself a returning rider. It's funny. I'll let you decide. But here's some tips for a returning rider. One, and it's a big one, you should embrace the changes. There's been a lot of changes in motorcycling over the past few years, and it's ever evolving. First, electronics. Just about every bike now comes with electronics and computers, and they all come with computers now, but they have all kinds of safety aids. Traction control, wheelie control, slide control. At first I thought, well, that's just going to be annoying. I don't need that. I never had it, and I was just fine without it. Which is true. Just go with it. If you don't need it, it's not really hindering you, except in the case of the wheelie control and things like that. The front wheel on this 900 comes up a lot, and it'll kind of gently put the wheel back down. And that's fine, because you always have the option to turn it off. When I feel like hooning around and doing some wheelies and stuff, I just hit a couple buttons and it's turned off. So just realize it's not going to hurt you. And when I'm just out riding or somewhere I know is a little sketchy, riding through bad traffic in Philly, I put it on sport mode, which has the lowest traction control setting, which seems fine. I just like sport mode because the throttle response is different, and I like it that way. Let's see, number 2, there's a lot more power in the bikes, and that's a good thing, but they're also easier to ride. I mean, with traction control, ABS, you could have 125, 150 horsepower, which years ago seemed like a crazy number, and now it's manageable. It's there when you want it, it's there when you need it, but you could get on a ZH2, which is crazy horsepower, and as long as you're not hammering away, you could just ride it like a normal bike. The next thing I want to talk about, and I wasn't the best at this, because I used to live on my 600 sport bike. Loved it. Then it got stolen. It got destroyed. I didn't have it insured. So for years I didn't have a bike, and I rode whenever I could, and it was always somebody else's bike, and it wasn't the same. And it was mainly just because of money. I didn't have the money. I was not responsible with my money. I was stupid. I was just, if I had extra money, I was, going out to the bars, hanging out with my friends, and chasing girls. The normal stuff. But I wasted a lot of my money. I mean, I would have, looking back, I would have saved up and had a bike and spent half the time riding, the other half doing all those other things. Where was I? Oh, anyway, coming back, I came back to a cruiser bike for a little while, because I thought that's good enough. I just want to be out on the roads. I want to ride a bike again. I want to putt around. And that didn't do it for me. it just didn't do it for me. I mean, I enjoyed myself. I liked cruising around. I love being part of the Harley family. It's almost like being part of a club that, you know, it was nice. But what I really missed was the steering and the power of a sport bike. I missed that a ton. And when I realized that what I did was I got myself the wrong bike, you know, I told myself some stupid things like, oh, you're grown out of that. You don't need that. You don't need to do that. No, I don't need to, but I like it. I love it. And I don't know if I'll ever grow out of it. Maybe I will. But I went from barely putting any miles on the cruiser I had, barely putting any miles on the Harley, to living on this bike. Yeah, the winter is gonna kill me. Yeah, I started doing this. But maybe I'll cut some of that. But part 2 is body position. Now, I went from my old sport bike to a cruiser, where, you know, you were just sitting very relaxed and leaning back. And when I got back on the sport bike, I felt so uncomfortable on it. I felt like my junk was just sliding into the tank. You know, it didn't feel precise like I remember the old Ninja feeling, and everything just seemed off, and I was wondering if I made a mistake. And then I started to realize, not only, you know, did I come back from a long absence on the sport bike, I came back to a cruiser, and then I didn't change when I got on the old sport bike here. Well, naked sport bike, whatever, same thing. It's still a sport bike. So I started looking up things. Like one thing, I was holding the throttle wrong, and I can't hold it like it did on the bike with clip-ons, because the way the bars are shaped, I have to be a little closer to hold it in the wrong way. You know, you want to hold it like this, but you can't really do here. It's too far out. But I have a little bit of a bend in my wrist. Alright, so I was thinking about that, and then I was wondering, well, what else am I doing wrong? And I had my feet flat on the pegs like this, which is fine for a cruiser, but on this, it was really affecting the way the bike rode, affecting how I felt, and you realize you got to be on the balls of your feet. Almost like you're riding a dirt bike. And I did that, which felt uncomfortable at first, but I just made sure for like a week, I'd say a week, that every time I got on the bike, I was like, get my hand on the throttle correct, get my feet correct. And in that week, I realized something. I was way more comfortable on the bike. I wasn't sliding towards the tank anymore. You know, the bike seemed to handle better, you know, like I used to remember them handling. And I'm like, oh man, that's just from a couple little things. So of course I looked into everything, you know, how I should have my back, my shoulders, or the triangle, you know. So I would say that is the second thing you need to do. Boom, immediately get yourself in the proper position. And I thought to myself, you know, I've been riding forever, I don't need to do all that. Man, I was wrong. You know, you forget about things, you know, and bad habits die hard. But it didn't take long, because when I realized, you know, it wasn't hurting as bad to ride, I was riding better, boom, I just looked into all of it, and after a little bit of doing everything correctly, it feels weird to go back the other way. The last thing, and I had problems with this myself, is to do a little practice. Like I looked up guys like Moto Jitsu who do drills, and you think to yourself, dude, you've been riding, you were a real quick rider, you know, you were pretty good at it. You don't need to do drills like somebody who's just learning how to ride a bike. Man, you know, I didn't go out and buy cones and set them up and do all that. I should have. Maybe I will. Because it just makes you a little bit better, and you don't realize this stuff you forgot. And the more you can handle your bike, because it's going to be yours for a little while, you know, the happier you're going to be with it. So I do, you know, every once in a while I take some time and go into a parking lot and do some tight U-turns. Or I definitely had practiced with the braking when I got the bike. Brakes are much stronger now, and almost every bike has ABS. I didn't have that before. That was probably the next step. I was just gonna say practice with the braking, get used to the ABS. I love it now. You know, you're not gonna lock it up and do stoppies. You know, if you get too crazy and out of control. The ABS is cool on a motorcycle. All these things I resisted at first, just because I didn't have them, you know? And I'm like, man, they're just making this sport better. And it is. Now, I guess you could say there's more things to break, and I don't know. I guess there is. But, you know, it's electronics. They plug it into a computer, mess around. I think they can fix it all pretty easily. I'm not sure. I shouldn't comment on that because I really don't have the knowledge. So that's about it. I'm sure I'll think of some other things later, and I'll get back to you with those. But a lot of time and a lot of seat time, a lot of practice on the bike, and I'm feeling like I'm really getting back to my old form. And I hope you guys follow along on this whole trip with me, you know, and later, subscribe.